Well, hello again, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the 19th episode of Cal's Corner, otherwise soon to be calsministry.com. We're going to launch a new website here coming up through Phil Quinlan, a buddy of mine, is Sherpa Leadership Group, and my youngest daughter, Ariel, is working for him part-time. And we're going to have my own little website. Be on TikTok and Twitter and all these things that I don't use, but probably guys your age do. And so once again, I'm Cal Van Singel. My guest today is a longtime friend and fishing guide extraordinaire.
Easy on the extraordinary.
He's on the extraordinary. I catch fish with you, so it's
okay.
got to be extraordinary. But it's Nathan Hulst here out of Newaygo, and Nathan, welcome in and thank you for joining us here today.
Well, thanks for having me, Cal.
You bet. So quickly pay a couple bills here. So our sponsors is once again VanDyk Mortgage, right here in Muskegon, KLLB Media with Billy Mann, who's kind of running the show here. He's the one that takes care of all this. Bill's Golden Cards and Collectables right here in Whitehall. That's where you and I are filming this at. Mm-hmm. And you said, boy, I better not bring my kids here.
They've got a lot of cool stuff in here.
They do. It's a really awesome little shop. And I shouldn't say little. It's a big card shop for the size, but it's awesome shop. Bill Welch does a great job here. So, VanDyk Mortgage, KLLB, Sherpa Leadership Group, Phil Quinlan, and Bill's Golden Cards and Collectables. And once again, I'm your host, Cal Van Singel. So let's kind of get started here. So I am with Nathan Hulst. You were born and raised in Newaygo, never left, correct? You've always been living in, other than when you've maybe traveled at different times.
My family moved back here when I was 5.
Okay.
But my parents are both originally from Newaygo, graduates of Newaygo High School. So.
Yeah. Yep. Weren't your parents were some type of missionaries, weren't they, when you were younger?
They were back in the late 60s, early 70s. They got involved with YWAM, Youth of the Mission.
Yeah.
And they served all around the country. In fact, I'm the oldest of 5. I was born in New Jersey. My brother was born in Texas. My sister was born in California. And my other 2 siblings were born right here in Gerber Hospital.
Gerber Hospital,
yes.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
We have north, south, east, west, all the way around.
You got it covered.
But they came back to land here back when I was about 5.
Yeah. And your parents are from Newaygo, correct?
My parents are, yes.
Yeah.
In fact, my family on my dad's side, for a lot of longtime Newaygo County residents will remember Tiff's restaurant out on M82. That was his mother, Iris, and they originally had like a gas station, general store there. My great-great-grandfather was a logger. A lot of people remember the old Valley Inn right downtown Newaygo. That was my great-grandfather ran that. So, in fact, right before she died, my grandmother was showing me some things. My great-great-grandfather ceded the land to Grand Rapids Light and Power to build the Croton Dam. So
no kidding.
Yeah, I'm sure back then it was a logging company. It was just they'd already logged it. They swapped it for some land up north somewhere that they could continue to log so that they could build a dam there. So
that's fascinating.
I always thought, could you have just saved a couple lots, Grandpa?
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Tell me about your parents real quick.
Okay. My mom, Steve and Jackie, both still reside in where I grew up, our home in Newaygo.
Mm-hmm.
I have always said I feel extraordinarily blessed to be raised by, what I consider 2 of the most amazing parents that, a kid could have. I've really been blessed. They're still active in their church. They love their family, love other people, just been a great example for me growing up. They set the bar very high. It's hard to live up to, but they're always very generous, very helpful, and just great.
Yeah, you
great
do
role models.
Yeah, you have great, wonderful parents. What about your siblings?
Siblings?
Sister?
I have a sister who lives down in South Bend, Indiana, with her husband and a couple kids. And my brother and sister have built on the property adjoining my parents. We always joke and say they've got a little compound going there. So whenever we have family get-togethers, we have a lot of kids. Being the oldest, we had the first children. My oldest is 16.
Hmm.
We have like 11 grandkids in 11 years. I think we're up to 12 now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Awesome.
so
Tell me about your family before we get going here. We're on a family theme, so let's
we're
keep
on
it
a family
rolling.
theme.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My wife Amy and I have 4 kids, 3
Hmm.
boys, 16, 15, and then I have another 10-year-old son and my little princess who's 8. So
Hmm.
we finally got it right. She says we had a full girl, and you having 2 daughters, you know what I mean.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, okay. So, tell me about the early years of Nathan Hulst.
The early years.
Yeah.
Um, well, we grew up in such a different time. I mean, I feel so fortunate to grow up, when we
Hmm.
did.
Yeah.
M- we had a lot of freedom. I mean, when I went to school for a couple years elementary at Nuevo Elementary, and then I was homeschooled from 5th through 8th grade, and so it gave me a lot of academic freedom. My mom would set up a curriculum, and I would just have this I had to get done. Uh, and I'd get up at 5 in the morning, and I'd be done by 10 o'clock. And then, my brother and I, who was 2 years younger than I, we had an affinity for the outdoors and the woods
Hmm.
and the rivers. And, you know, 10 o'clock, we were done and we were out exploring. So, I mean, I grew up on the banks of the Muskegon
Yeah.
River and the Bigelow Creek. And
Hmm.
um, so, yeah, it was just a great childhood. I mean, maybe we didn't know that we should have been afraid of things, but just, we, the fact that I'm here alive is testament to God's, my parents' prayers watching out for us
Yeah.
because, you know, some of
Hmm.
the things we did that, you'd never do now. You'd never, I mean, I cringe thinking of my kids doing what we did, but,
Yeah.
somehow we managed to survive. So,
Yeah. I spoke a week ago tonight up in Hart Shelby at base camp Hart up there, and I said
Mhm.
the only reason I'm here is because of God. It's the only. I wrote so many checks back in the day, my body never could have cashed. You know.
I'm
So
right there with you.
yeah, yep. Tell me about the high school years.
High school years, I went back in 8th grade, and it was really an easy transition for me because my parents had always had us involved in sports and other community activities. It was a small community,
Yeah.
so I did really well academically, um, and had a really good experience at Nuevo High School.
Hmm.
Had I think that was the time when we received the designation of being like an exemplary school in the United States. Had good teachers, administrators, and I excelled in school. I did well, finished top of my class.
Wow.
Was really active in sports,
Hmm.
and had a good core group of friends that I still am fortunate to stay in touch with till today. So
Yeah. Yep. Well, you finished at the top. I finished near the bottom. So I wasn't.
and we end up
even-
in the same place.
Look at this. Yeah. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
After high school, I know you were a great athlete in high school, but then afterwards you go to college. So
Mhm.
tell us about your college experience.
My college experience is where things started to get a little different. I went to Hope College
Hmm.
and had a good experience there. Went there my first year, played baseball. Um, and I had gone in, when you finish at the top of your class, you have expectations that, you'll be a doctor, a lawyer, something like that. And I had aspirations, I was going in pre-med because that's kind of where my interest lay in
Yeah.
biology and things like that. But after a year or so, I just kind of, I had a friend who was in med school and he was deep into it. And he said, if I were, I wouldn't do it again because of all the paperwork. He said he loved doing all that. And I have no proclivity towards paperwork. That
Yeah.
just, it's not where my strengths lie. So I just continued on there. After my freshman year, um, 2 high school buddies and we were 19, decided that, we want to go on a grand adventure. We decided we were going to drive up to Alaska. And, excuse me, that was my sophomore year, at the end of my sophomore year.
Hmm.
We're going to drive to Alaska and, do this grand adventure. So we worked all summer. We saved up, bought a an old pickup truck, had a camper on the top, put our boat, pulled a boat trailer and built all the storage. We were pretty much, I mean, I wish I had brought the picture to show you because it looked like a Beverly Hillbilly rig. And so we drove all the way out there, and that was when gas was cheap in the States, but not in Canada. So the deal was I provided the vehicle, I bought the vehicle and everything else. My two buddies were going to buy gas. Well, we ran out of money for gas, and probably we were in British Columbia. So I still had some money, but our allotted amount to go up because there we looked at the price, but it was per liter, not per gallon. So,
yeah.
And an old Ford pickup truck doesn't get great gas mileage. And you're running. People always see Alaska on the map. It's 4,200 miles door to door. But that trip, I mean, you see things that I encourage everybody, if you ever get a chance and you just want to see the breadth of God's creation.
Yeah.
There's value in going across the Great Plains. We went all the way up on the northern tier through on US 2, which goes along the coast of and the UP. We drove that for all the way across to Montana and then went up north, and you just see it's amazing. That's all I can say. Drive up there, sell your car, and fly back because the drive back is a long one and don't have any time constraints. But so we went up there, and like I said, we ran out of money, and so my first trip up to Alaska. You'll appreciate this being a farmer. Maybe I've shared this with you before, but one of my friends had a shirt tail relation who was, of all things, a produce farmer in Wasilla, Alaska. And I'm thinking to myself, this is barren northern country. It is actually some of the most fertile soil you'll ever see. 4 foot deep topsoil from the glacier silt. And I ended up on a potato harvester, just to make money to get gas and whatnot. But up there, it didn't matter because you have 20, we're 19, 20 years old. It's daylight for 23 and a half hours.
Yeah.
So I would work a 10-hour day, and then I go fish for, 8 or 10 hours. So a lot of adventures to be found.
Yeah.
That way.
How did you get into guiding? I know you grew up as a small child on the river, but how did you get into guiding on the Muskegon River, which some call maybe not the Holy Grail, like the Au Sable or the PM, but really a destination for a lot of fishermen all over the world for trout, salmon, steelhead, and all that. How do you get into fishing? Or guiding, I should say.
Well, it started, I had always, loved to fish. My dad had gotten into it. A good friend of his had taught him, and he was a rod builder. And I still remember we got a big Christmas present because, young family of 5 kids, we didn't have a lot of money growing up, but they had scrimped and saved and bought us our first custom VanDyk fishing rod, which I'm sure I think you had your first rod. In fact, I remember using that this last fall. But so that was a big deal because we'd always loved going down to the river and fishing and seeing what we could get out.
Yeah.
But my grandmother's second husband was Charlie Davidson. He worked at the restaurant. He'd been really involved, and I think he's in the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame and had a lot of contacts there. And he bought a Mackenzie River drift boat. And he started to, one of the old guides from around this area, one of the original ones was Gary Bowl.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so my step-grandpa he and Gary were friends. He'd fished with Gary. And Gary said, well, why don't you run a second boat? And so they would run, when they get a group of, 4 to 5 guys, and they would each take a group with them and they'd fish together. And when they kind of parted ways and didn't fish as much together, I was about 19, and I had seen Charlie's boat, and I said, I can do that. And so I ended up building my first drift boat, as a match of his with a friend of a dear friend of mine, Paul Kohlenbrander, who was really into wooden boats. And so I put that together and was fishing out of it. And Charlie said, well, you can help me. So right at the age of about 19, I would run, a few trips for him when he had groups.
Yeah.
And so I knew how to fish. but guiding's a totally different thing than fishing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got my leg into that. And then I went through college,
Mm-hmm.
After a second year at Hope, I transferred up to Northern Michigan University, and that was at the time in the UP they'd shut all the mines down, and
Okay.
so it was really depressed. And I remember I worked a job up there that I got hired at this hardware store that did small engines, kind of did everything, and there were people that like 20 people had applied for this, and they were looking at it for a full-time job, and it paid $4.30 an hour, and which wasn't a lot even back then.
Yeah.
And which I was thankful to have the job, but we did the math, and I would actually drive back here every other weekend. I didn't take any Friday classes. Drive back Thursday night, fish Friday, guide Friday and Saturday with my grandpa, and then go back up. And I could make as much doing that as I could, working a full 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I got started.
Yeah. Wood boat.
Mm-hmm.
We got to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
And you have great woodworking skills. I mean, you are definitely gifted in building and all that, those trades.
Mm-hmm.
But I have fished out of your wood boat numerous times.
Mm-hmm.
I know right now you kind of have it a little bit shelved to kind of rebuild it a little bit. Needs a little TLC after fishing in the river
For 12 years, yeah.
for 12 years. So that's not your first boat though. Must be
My third boat.
That's your third. Is that your third wooden boat?
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
the first and second one somewhere?
No,
No?
I sold them. I actually sold my grandfather ended up getting cancer
Mm-hmm.
and was in a bad way, and he was going to sell the other boat, and it was just for nostalgic value. That was the original boat. Some people on the river will still recognize it. It has he was in the Marine Corps. The old Marine Corps model, KISS, keep it simple, stupid, was in bold letters right across the front. So,
Okay.
and I still own that. I bought, but I was a teenage kid. I didn't have much money. So I sold my wooden boat.
Okay.
And I did see it again about 10 years later. Somebody's still having it and using it. So.
Really?
Yeah.
So the boat you have now,
Yes.
haven't fished in it probably the last 2 years, right?
Yep.
How big is that boat?
18 foot.
How wide is it?
60 inches on the bottom. So
Okay.
Almost 8 feet on the top.
And wood. Tell us why wood's better than aluminum.
Why wood's better
Because
it is quieter.
Yeah.
You just get a more dead sound when you hit, anything drops, which invariably it does. There's not as much clanging. It is warmer in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And it is colder. It's cooler to the touch in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it just has a different. Water makes a different lapping sound. It's a wooden boat.
Your wooden boat's seriously cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
It's coming back, but it's just
okay.
Four kids.
You're busy. You're busy.
Yeah.
You're busy. So one thing I want to talk about is you fished all over North America.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you've been to South America yet, have you?
No,
but North America, you've got that covered. Where are some of the really cool places that you fished?
In college, I took a summer course through Hope and was fortunate enough to take a class of all things. I had a professor that had a cabin out there way out in the middle of nowhere, and we went out to help him do research for a textbook.
Yep.
And we ended up taking like a 2-week trek across the Holy Cross Wilderness area.
Okay, which is where?
Which is in Colorado.
Colorado, okay.
Colorado. And, being a fisherman, I had a small little pack, fly fishing rod, reel setup. And there was ample time to fish. And we just got to go up on some of these lakes that, no one had ever seen and caught cutthroat and brook trout. And it was just that was a beautiful, beautiful spot but there was kind of neat because on that trip we went up there and half the people were vegetarians and didn't, and after a week, I mean, you're a farm guy, I'm a country boy, eating freeze-dried, food. It's great that you have it, but it's nothing you're really looking forward to eating up another packet of noodles. So those fish that I caught, even some of the vegetarians were happy to have a little protein about day 8. So
gotcha. And I know you fished Alaska numerous times and guided up there for a few summers.
Yeah. Alaska was one of those, after that first trip up there, I ended up transferring, like I said, to Northern, and met a really good friend, which was another great connection up in Alaska, who when he finished his undergrad, he was, and this was when I had taken my first job right out of college. I went and worked for the legislature for the state of Michigan, and was legislative aide to Mike Pumford. And my buddy had been from Alaska, had grown up out in little town of Copper Center, way out in the eastern part of Alaska. And he and I got to be good friends up at Northern, hunted and fished together a little bit. And he said, I'm going into dental school next year, but I've got to take the fall off. He said, this could be my fall to explore. Well, I just so happened to only paid vacation I've ever had in my life. The state of Michigan gave 3 weeks and I hadn't used any of it. So I took all 3 weeks and went up with him, and we had a grand hunting and fishing adventure. That was, we got to do rafting trip. We went on a caribou hunt. But to see that from the eyes of a local, to get to know all the local spots. And then I found my true passion up there in Alaska. The reason I went up there for like 9 or 10 years is the big king salmon that, because we have Chinooks and kings that we fish here, where a big one's going to be 30 pounds is a really big fish. I know we just recently set a record, but that's, the exception. And he was always telling me about all these huge fish that were up there. And we went up there the first year, and the kings were pretty much done, but we went back and just went way up in some of these streams. And I'll never forget this, because I just wanted to see them. He said, well, they're pretty much done running, but let's go check this area out. He said, it's way up here where they spawn. There'll be some dead ones laying around. So we baha back through all this brush in his pickup truck, and we get back in there. We get there, and he said, nobody comes back here. And I kid you not, Cal, it looked like the shores of the Manistee at Tippy Dam or at Croton Dam, where there's hordes of guys up and down the shore. The sides of this little stream were just beat down. I looked at him, I said, I thought nobody was down here to fish. He said, those aren't from people.
Yeah, those.
And literally there's a little sand island in the middle, and there was a huge paw print filling in with water at the time. Those are from grizzly bears. And we ended up seeing these just massive fish, and I was hooked. I mean, I think the largest king I ended up catching was about 70 pounds.
Wow, that's majestic. So I know, through our countless trips with you fishing on the river, and I will say this, you have the patience of Job, maybe more, because you put up with my wife and my daughters and I, and wow, and I can't imagine sometimes you get a young kid in the boat and you have to be watching where the hooks are, because they're flying past you all the time. So yeah, I want to compliment you on your patience.
What's the motto I always tell you in the boat, Cal?
Oh, which one?
I'm here for the chaos.
I'm here for the chaos.
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha. So question, and I know you're a faith-filled guy, so which one do I want to use here? When do you see Jesus the most while fishing?
That's a really good question. Because coming in to talk to you, I just was kind of thinking about, it makes you look back in retrospect about, what you do. This was nothing I ever planned on doing for, I've been doing it for 30 some years now. But as I've had some guys that have worked for, helped me off and on here and there. One of the things my grandpa always, impressed upon me when teaching me about guiding was, it's not about you. It's my job. I look at is I'm there to serve others. And I think that's part of the reason why it's kept my interest this long, is because the fishing part has to be easy. To do this, you have to because like I've told you many times, they're going to be, I generalize it down to the rule of 5. If you take five days, 3 days are probably going to be pretty average. You're going to get into some fish and have decent days. One day is going to be really tough.
Yeah.
And one day is going to be, my 8-year-old could probably go down and catch them because it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
So how do you manage? But all three of those average days, as you know, some days the mornings are tough, you
Yeah.
know, and people have come in with high expectations and doesn't necessarily pan out that
Hmm.
way. And so, you know, like your question goes, I have to get in the mindset that I'm here to serve these people. What do they want? And I've as you do it longer, you mature and you see different people. Everybody's there for a different reason.
Hmm.
Some people come. I have some people that have come to fish and they'll fish for 20 minutes and then just hang out. And you know, when I was younger, my goal is to, you know, how are we going to do today? Because we're always competing and
Yeah.
comparing. But they're there because for some of them, that's where they can connect with God. Because you and I, we grew up in it. I've grown up, been fortunate enough to be blessed to grow up in this, you know, I've traveled around the world. I've been to Europe. I've been to Central America. I've been to Alaska. I settled back here for a couple different reasons. I
Hmm.
mean, we've got 4 seasons, you
Yeah.
know, even though this part of the season right now, I'll be honest, gets a little long.
Yeah.
But Michigan has such a diversity of flora and fauna and great people that for some of those people, my people that come fish with me, they live in the city and they're in concrete or inside the apartment. They don't get outside other than maybe for a run or something like that. So I have to have the grace to give them the space just to, you know, just to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so, um, you know, we fish for steelhead. And I was kind of thinking about this. And I often tell people, you know, when we catch one, because you know, we can fish for steelhead, salmon, trout. But above all, a steelhead is probably, um, I always call it God's masterpiece.
Hmm.
But in thinking on the way over here, just because they have such, they're all different. They all have such variant colors. Some have a lot of spots, little spots. They always have like a beautiful green, red, you know, they'll have metallic hues on their cheeks. They're just, I mean, they're spectacular.
Yeah.
Um, but they're not the masterpiece. It's usually the person holding them or catching them that is the masterpiece.
Hmm.
And, but it's just a reminder, I think, for some people who don't get to see that and connect with that, you know, creation testifies to the, you know, the awesomeness of the God that we serve. So if I can help people connect with that a little bit, I think that's probably.
Hmm. Do you have a time of season when you like where you see Christ the most while you're fishing? And for instance, for me, it's in the fall, like late September, October. I have a picture with my oldest daughter, Ashton,
Mm-hmm.
below the bridge
Uh-huh.
and a high bank. It was all colors.
Oh.
And as I snapped that picture, I have it in my phone. And it's like one of those, it's like, there's nothing better than this. You know, you're on the boat, your daughter's there, she's a school teacher. So she's busy. She has 3 kids. She has her own life. But we get that one day a year, I like on a weekend or something, we get that one day a year where
Mm-hmm.
we hook up with you and her and I can spend 7, 8 hours together with you. And you're just like family now of all the times we fish together.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that I'm thinking, I still am, it's as vivid can be. It's like, wow, this is God's masterpiece right here. Just the fall colors, the high bank, you know. So fall is my.
I know
It's that
fall is
majestic
your
time.
go-to.
Yeah.
And it is, I guess that's part of the reason that I enjoy it here in Michigan so much, because I'll be honest with you, right now, all I can think about is
Yeah.
that springtime. Spring has a similar feel to it when you get that late March, early April. There may even be a little snowpack left in the grounds,
Hmm.
but everything is just springing to new life,
Hmm.
you know, and especially down the river is kind of, um, it's central. All the birds that are flying back from the south. There's tremendous stonefly hatches.
Yeah.
You have turkeys. You have all the robins that have come up. We saw something in my yard the other day. I didn't check my calendar because this is not on.
Yes.
They're all fluffed out. But you'll have robins. bluebirds, swallows, everything is just coming down, and you just hear the chirping, the sound, the noise, the vibrancies kind of come back after the,
yeah.
the purifying of the winter.
Hmm.
And the leaves are just starting to poke out green. So that's also a time when I see it, because the idea of new life, rebirth. It's kind of like we've gone through this cold, and now there's rebirth. But as far as spectacular, yes, mid-October in on the Muskegon is. It
Doesn't get
doesn't
any
get
better.
any better.
No, I got you.
No.
Well, I mentioned one daughter, so I have to mention the other one.
Oh,
So I equate my youngest daughter Ariel to, and if you've ever had a German short-hair puppy, because all they do is bounce, right? There's such a vast difference between Ariel and Ashton. I mean, they're like, you're pretty sure they're the same mom and dad. But Ariel, she gets in the boat, and she's like a young German short-hair puppy in that she's all this fire ball of energy. You know, and if she catches a 25-pounder, she wants a 30. So how do you handle the 5 or 8 or 10-year-old kid or the 30-year-old woman that, you know, has this crazy passion and drive to succeed, or just how do you handle all the energy? Because I know it's more than just her.
No,
that
it
steps
is
on your boat. That's that way.
But that's why I still, you know, I've always never wanted to have a job that I look forward to. I mean, anything you do for work is work.
Yeah.
And if I said guiding wasn't work, I'd be, you know, wouldn't be telling the truth. There's all the prep work, the behind the scenes stuff. But for me, I still love guiding because I love the people, and I love that variation. And you couldn't have, I mean, you described it perfectly, because, you know, getting to know the girls over the last, you know, number of years that we've gone, it couldn't be any more different. Ashton, that's the easiest day in the world, because as soon as she hits the boat, you can just feel that. I mean, that gal, she doesn't care if she catches one or not.
Yeah.
She's actually more happy if you catch them than she does.
Yeah.
She enjoys being out, but she's won once she's hit the boat. My job is to not get in our way, to not make my ambition, you know, to want to try to let her catch as many fish as possible. Just let the day happen. And it's funny because you're more like Ariel. You have you got both in there, but you're more like Ariel. You know, all right, let's go. Let's go get another one. Let's get a bigger one, because. And part of it is, I know, because Ariel's going to be chirping. You guys have this running
oh my
thing
gosh,
going, where, you know, hey, Dad, you remember how much bigger my fish was? Yeah. But then with Ariel, it's also easy in the same sense, because I do have that competitive drive inside me. So, all right, let's go. You know, it's go time. But each day is different. But it's that variation that just makes it fun, and to have the privilege of being part of, you know, watching you describe your day on the river. What greater gift than I get to be right there for that kind of thing, you know, every day.
Who are some of the most unique people that you have ever fished with?
The most unique people, it's such a broad spectrum. We get anywhere from professional athletes to, I've got some people that will pull out their phone and show you pictures of them with dignitaries, presidents. Fished with Hall of Fame hockey players, football, baseball players, military vets. That has always been a really interesting one, probably more so in the last, let's say, probably 10 to 20 years ago. I felt very privileged because I never served. I was never in the service. Both my grandfathers had served in World War II. And there was a group of guys that, you know, friends of theirs that had each, you know, that I'd fished with over the years. People that it would seem like it was almost like this magical when they got into their early 80s, and we'd be out on the boat, and all of a sudden they're relaying stories of being, you know, fighting in the South Pacific or, you know, at the beach in Normandy, and they're telling these just riveting stories, just full of emotion, and talking, you know, about their comrades, their friends. just horrible, insufferable things that no human should ever have to see or be a part of, that you don't see in documentaries, or you're seeing it from a live person listening to it, right? As close as we are, and you get done with the end of the day, and the friend, or a lot of times it'd be a son, would just look at me, and I could see a shocked look on their face, and they'd say, my dad has never mentioned one word of that. I didn't know any of that. But it was just, I think that a lot of their buddies had passed. Maybe the time had passed enough where they could, and they were in an environment where they felt that they could, really open up and share some of that. So I felt just privileged to get that perspective on history, and that a lot of people won't, I gained a much more great appreciation for the service that a lot of them did. But interesting folks. There's a group that we've taken probably it'll vary anywhere from 4 to 10 of them, and they were all these European corporate leaders. And just to kind of echo back on what you talked about at the beginning, the Muskegon, the West Michigan area is kind of a premier destination for steelhead fishermen. These guys can fish anywhere they want. They fish down in Argentina, they fish in Russia, but for 10 years they would come and fish a week in the fall and a week in the spring, just to kind of show you that the unique fishing that we have. But they were all just such a varied group. A couple Romanians, some Italians, some Brits, just Germans, and that was always unique to get the perspective from them, and just on world events, and just to see things through a broader lens. And they always had interesting stories. But like we talked about, the group of people I get to fish with is so broad. I may take somebody who, for them, they save up for 2 years to be able to spend a day on the river, and then take somebody who makes, in one day will make twice what I make in a year. Yeah. But we're all the same when you strip it down. You get down, and we're all just as how we're all going to be stripped down when this life is over, and we stand before the Lord and have to give an account. And the boat kind of helps put people in that perspective. Those people that are, money doesn't mean anything, and a lot of times to the one of the wealthiest people I ever took, I didn't know. I fished with him for a couple of years. It was just Roy, and he would show up in the morning for breakfast. He'd have his old beat up waders on, one suspender strap over, usually kind of unkept, and old Bob, and he'd show up, and we'd go out and spend the day. Couldn't ask for a nicer human being. I'd get a handwritten note from him on Christmas, hey, hope your family's well. And one year, one of his friends let slip. He's like, do you know who old Bob is? I don't know. Bob, he's my buddy. We fished together. He said, Bob's a really wealthy guy, blah, blah, blah. So I look him up. Bob could have written a check for Newaygo County probably and not had his credit check. Yeah. But he was just Bob. And we were still people just like you and I. So being in a boat in that situation really gives me a perspective that we're all just, and I should have that anyway, as we're all equal in the eyes of the Lord. Yeah. And so, but as far as unique, you get a lot of people with unique experiences. I always make doctors tell me the weirdest stories. Things that they've experienced, and attorneys and farmers. Farmers have the best stories.
No, they don't. No.
In fact, I remember one story from a gentleman that you brought, a cheesehead from Wisconsin, an old baseball player, Tom Roy.
Oh yeah,
a friend of yours.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead and share that. Yeah, we had a whole lot of names for him. Tiny Dancer.
I think you had a lot of names under your breath for him that one day. Yeah. To set the stage for this, preface it. Cal and I have fished together for years. Cal's fished the river years before we ever met. Caught almost every fish you could catch in the river. He's had one kind of target goal that he'd like to catch. and this is common for a lot of people. They would like to catch that monumental brown trout, that river brown that they've got to be very old. There's not a lot of them there. And Cal has caught a lot of nice browns, really nice browns. So make a short story long, as we like to do before we're waiting for the next bite. Tom Roy comes up fishing. Cal invites him over. And Tom's a decent fisherman. I think, would you say, played minor league baseball for a number of years. Fun guy to spend a day with. Just, he's in a ministry, UPI,
Unlimited Potential.
Where he works with athletes. And so we're just having a great day of fellowshipping and just, enjoying the river. And we're catching quite a number of steelhead. And all of a sudden, Tom gets this fish on. And he's kind of fighting it, and he's laughing casually, brings it in, and I just scoop it, and my eyes are like, and I look over, and Cal's just jaws on his chest, he's drooling. And I bring it into the boat, and here's this brown trout that, majestic. I mean, it was pushing 30 inches, spots as big as the end of your thumb. And Cal, the fish that Cal has dreamed of his whole life. And Tom just kind of casually looks over. He's like, that's not steelhead. What's that? With complete disdain. And I thought you were going to toss him over the side of the boat.
Oh, I wanted to jump myself. Yeah.
So anyway, we have a lot of fun. A lot of neat experiences.
Oh, we've had a lot of fun with some of the guys that we've brought on the boat. That's for sure.
We have. Every day is a new adventure. That's what keeps it fun.
Yeah. Going back to fishing with vets and everything, do you find that the boat's a healing place, especially for veterans?
No, without a doubt.
Or maybe people struggling with something, but probably especially veterans. That's just a healing time for them.
Oh, definitely. In fact, there's a lodge in the river that has started doing just catering specifically to vets, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a huge need and call for it that I think without a doubt, it's just a great, you really see them, I mean, just relax and be able to, I don't know, just let things, it's hard to describe. It just has that, I always say that for me, whenever I've had, tough times in life or tension, I needed to be down by the river because it's almost cliche, but dude, water's just kind of wash your cares away. Just put you in a good mindset.
I took a friend of mine 2 years ago with you, who was a combat vet in Fallujah. And
I
remember that we slid off from Henning Park. He just put the boat in, and we're sitting in the back of the boat, and he hits me in the arms. I just hope and I knew the fish at that point because we'd been fishing with my wife and daughters. It's just like, I just hope we catch one today. And I'm just like, I think it's going to be a pretty good day. I didn't say we were going to get into them, but
no, you don't want to put the
no, gosh, no. I didn't say anything other than I think it'll be a good day.
Yeah.
And just to watch him just throughout that course of that 7 or 8 hours, he'd never done anything like that before. He fishes up north in the Pine.
I've never been thanked that much in my life.
Oh,
that's the one thing I really remember. That thank you. This is so great. Was all I could say.
Yeah. Yep. So you see that with the combat related vets and that appreciation to be out there, especially on a river. I mean, Lake Michigan fishing's great. I enjoy it, but nothing like being on that river, the water lapping up against the boat, the mink or the otter runs by, the eagles flying overhead, the turkeys on the shore.
You think it maybe reminds them of what they fought for?
That could be,
I'm just musing out loud here. I don't know. I've never really thought of it, but it just came to me. I wonder if that's part of it for them, why it's that much more, means that much more to them. It already means a lot to us.
Yeah. Well, I think it might be for him too, because he had a family cabin on the Pine. And so now to fish the Muskegon, when it's loaded with salmon, like it was that day.
Yeah.
Wow, that was an amazing day. I don't think we've talked about this. If you could fish anywhere, have we brought that up yet in this segment?
I don't know if we did or not.
If you could fish anywhere, where would it be?
I think we talked about earlier in the segment. I've been fortunate enough to fish a lot of places out west. Alaska would be one I'd always go back to. I've always had for some reason, tropics don't. I'm a northern guy. Don't call to me. I would these Europeans that I always take fishing. They always talk about this fish called the taimen over in Eurasia, and I'd like to go. It's just this huge, one of the world's largest trout, and I'd like to go fish for those someday. Lord willing, we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. You got four kids.
I got 4 kids.
Four under the age of 18.
And I started late. I always tell everybody, and I know you've heard me. I did my retirement in my late 20s, so I'll be working for quite a bit longer, and that's okay.
Well, I was just gonna say what's next, but what's next in your life? But you don't plan on slowing down at all, guiding.
No. This is I as long as I still enjoy doing it. That's more than likely what I do. I mean, and it affords me the other joy of my life, which is raising my kids.
Yeah.
And I mean, what a blessing each one of them is. And as you know, I'm all in.
You are.
We'll do coaching. We'll do whatever. That's it's just such a blessing to watch, and even coaching through sports, just to see growth of other kids on the teams. That I really enjoy. That's another aspect I really enjoy being involved with. Just to watch them develop is such a gift.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I didn't write down, but I know it just popped in my head, and I was thinking of this yesterday. You're just a great dad.
Oh.
Yep. Well, you are though. But I'm around, certain football programs where, in West Michigan here, the one I'm around a lot, they don't have it. Kids don't have dads, or very few of them do. Then I see you with your 4 kids, and you're engaged with all of them. You were sledding. You sent me the video from Branston Park. Was it Jonah? Judah. Sorry, Judah. You were sledding with Judah, and it was like 10 degrees after that, and you're going down on a sled with him, and fresh snow, and you're covered in snow. And you sent me the video, and it's awesome. I remember thinking, what a great dad.
You didn't look and go, he's too old for that.
No. You're not beat up and feet. I'm kind of beat up, but yeah.
Well, like we talked about at the beginning, I was given such a great example. And I look at each one of them as I've never looked at them as a burden. They're a gift that God has given
absolutely.
us. I mean, the greatest gift. I've gotten to travel around the world. Was fortunate to do that when I was younger. Do a job that a lot of people would love to have, and I would still choose raising my kids and being with my kids over, you asked me if I have desires to go fish other places. I do, but I came to a realization probably right around when I turned 30, like my 7th or 8th trip up to Alaska. And here I am. I'm back in the most beautiful, remote, pristine place, fishing for a target fish that I've been, pursuing, which is really stupid considering salmon die after they run up. I'm fishing for that big fish that I've lost.
Yeah.
And I'm out there, I'm looking around, and it's just beautiful and gorgeous. And I came to the realization, this is neat and all, but it's kind of empty without somebody to share it with.
Yeah.
There's certain times when I need my alone time, but and so now to have the gift of these kids that with me.
Yeah. Do you see any of your boys? Do you see it in any of them that they might continue on and carry on?
Probably my youngest son. It might be my daughter. She's always trying to go fishing. The older ones enjoy it, but at this stage in life, we encourage them to do team sports while they still can, while they can experience that while they can. But they love, if I want to go down anytime we want to go to the river, let's go.
Yeah.
But they all enjoy being out, but they're not torn up with it the way I was. My third one might be, but
yeah. Well, the kids today have so much more than what we had.
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had 3 channels on the TV, and I mean that.
And there was nothing.
There was nothing. There was nothing on, and there was nothing. There was no games you could play on your phone. There were no cell phones. There was nothing like that. So yeah.
Well, I will tell you, off topic.
Yeah.
I have ventured at 50 years old. I ventured into the video game realm
Mhm.
first time, and I've never been a gamer, but to do something with one of my kids,
Yeah,
especially on a hard winter, I have ventured in, and now I get it because it's not just sitting in the front doing nothing. You're actually interacting with friends and with others, and
Mhm.
like anything else, it needs to be checked. But
Mhm.
we have a lot of fun together. It actually helps build a relationship. So
Well, and that's why I say you're a great dad because you are involved with all this stuff. And
Mhm.
you know, I've talked about your son, and you know, is it Fortnite or something that you
Yes.
guys play?
And I am horrible. I am absolutely
Yeah,
horrible.
yeah.
We have
But you
fun.
know, but Dad, come and play with me. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
do that. Or let me get the boat ready, and I'll be in 30 minutes. Or yeah, that's
Yeah.
why you're just I've
Yeah.
watched you grow up with your kids, and
Yeah.
you're great. I don't know how long I've fished with you, but it's quite a while now.
But that's because I have a great wife who is, you know, we put a lot together in, and it takes the two of us for sure. So
Well, that it does, and it's
Yep.
kids that have two great parents are
Mhm.
so blessed,
Mhm.
and they normally don't.
I don't
realize
claim
it
to be a
until-
great parent, by the way.
Well,
I do the best I can with what I've got.
I'll give you an attaboy.
All right. Well, I
I'll give you
appreciate
an attaboy. So, anything else? Something you want to talk about while we wrap this up?
something I need to ask a good question of you because you're always asking questions. People need to know a little bit more about you, Cal. Now, I know that since this is kind of the outdoor fishing episode,
Yeah.
I know that you have, from our talks, you love to fish the river in the fall. That's one of your favorites.
Oh yeah.
But why don't you share a little bit about your other passion, which is those big ocean fish?
Oh yeah. I've been really blessed to go with a guy that we know, Gabe,
Mm-hmm.
and go down and fish the Florida Keys.
Mm-hmm.
And was blessed one day. I lost a permit at the boat. And I knew nothing about this.
Mm-hmm.
And Gabe was the one that told me about it that night when we were fishing for tarpon. Excuse me. So I went out with one of his guides and I caught a really nice bonefish. I've never caught numerous bonefish that day. I never caught a fish so fast in my life. I hooked him right off the front of the boat at 12, and then he went to 9. And then he went back to 12, and then he went to 3, and the reel was like, I thought it was going to explode. I never caught a fish so fast in my life. And then, so then we switched over to permit, and I had one right at the boat, but he got off. And then that night we went to Gabe and went fly fishing for tarpon in the dark. And it's, wow, is that addicting?
Oh, I bet it is.
It's
I bet
addicting.
it is. Especially with Gabe.
Yeah,
That's gotta
Gabe he's high.
Gabe's a wild man.
Yeah.
And I love him to death, but I can't imagine fishing with him after dark down
Yeah,
there.
it's
Gotta
yeah, the
That'd
music.
be fun.
Yeah,
That'd be fun.
especially if you're moving to another spot, the music's on and you're running. Who knows how fast to get to that other spot and get fishing? But yeah, and then I kind of caught my dream fish was a very very large tarpon. We got it to the boat and unhooked that, and that was like the two largest tarpon I've ever caught. I caught back to back. And one was like probably 80 to 90 pounds. And the next one he said was about 5.5 feet, 150. And then you catch it on a fly in the dark. And it's, it's just one of those things. It's majestic. So I've been to Canada numerous times, just been so blessed to fish, kind of the North America segment. And some point here, my dad, much like your dad's, but your dad was born in probably the early 50s. I'm guessing somewhere
Probably.
right there.
Yeah.
My dad was born in 1910. So my dad was 50. So imagine you at 50 having a child right now. But when my dad was in his mid 60s, which is where I am now, he went to Plummer's Lodge way up in the Northwest Territories. And I'm going to be venturing on a trip up in the Northwest Territories here soon. And to go fish the same lodge that my father did, 50 years later.
Wow.
Or more, 60 years later, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be,
and that's, that's a 2.5-hour bush plane flight. Only 300 people fish that lake a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way in and out. It's a bush plane. You're up by the Arctic Circle. That'll be an adventure.
That's one of the things that I found in my trips to Alaska and fishing out in remote areas. Or even here on the river, there's places on the river where we go, even though we're, in West Michigan that feel like you're a million miles from nowhere. And it really puts in perspective. I've never felt as small.
Yeah.
As far as you feel how big the creation really is around you, and puts that into perspective. But at the same time, feel, just awe inspired that here we are.
Yeah.
Just little old us, and yet he knows every hair on our head.
Absolutely.
So
he knows our every thought before we have it. Yeah. And just, it's amazing. So I think you and I have both been I know I've been way blessed, way more blessed than I
we both
deserve.
outkicked our coverage, and who we got fortunate enough to,
yes,
put up with us and marry us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I've heard all the time I've outpunted my coverage. That's for sure. So, well, Nathan, once again, welcome. Thank you very much for coming in and just sitting down. And when I started doing this podcast, I told you, like a year ago, I said, hey, listen, you're coming in sometime.
Forced.
And once again, we want to thank our sponsors, VanDyk Mortgage, KLLB Media right here with Billy Mann, Bill's Golden Cards and Collectables. And watch out for the new website coming soon called Cal's Corner Ministry. So, Nathan, thanks again, buddy. Appreciate you. I'm sure I'll see you soon in the boat.
All right.
And have a great day, everyone. God bless.